Hello everyone, welcome to the Unwanted Jedi Episode 3. Thank you for everyone who has been following along with this story. Let's continue. In Episode 2, we posted out the votes. The winner is Naboo, so that is the planet that we will be going to. Thank the Force for fast healing adrenals. Kolto shots did the trick for my ankle in less than an hour. Not that it really mattered to me. I was looking down at my palm. No one tells you how pretty lightsaber crystals are. They are hidden inside lightsaber hilts, so you never really get to see them raw in your hand. Maybe it was different when it was your own that you gathered yourself, but the way it sparkled was stunning. Are you sure you're okay? You were in there for a long time. Shiku had not left my side since we got back onto the ship. We had been back for a few hours now, and it was quite late. We had been given the night off for obvious reasons, and a snowstorm had picked up, keeping us grounded until morning. Please don't ask again, Shiku. I'm fine, I promise. The Kolto healed my ankle hours ago, and you haven't let me out of this blanket since we got back. I'm starting to think you should have been a nurse the way you're fussing, I answered, teasing her a bit. Well, pardon me. Not once have I ever seen you injured. Besides, even Master Kane was getting ready to go in after you. It was starting to get dark. We were all worried about you, she said in mock fury. Hey, it isn't my fault I had to jump over a bottomless pit and then hobble all the way back. Besides, time felt different. It felt like I was in there for no more than an hour or two. That cave is weird. We had gone over how I had gotten injured as Master Kane had asked. For the most part, it seemed our experiences were personal. Neither Shiku nor I felt the need to share what we experienced. For Shiku, this would seem odd, but it was like an unspoken rule. Neither of us even considered it, except that I had been hurt. You aren't wrong there. Anyway, it's late. Let's get some sleep. Step 2 begins tomorrow, Shiku said, leaving to find her own bed for the night. I would do the same, but Master Kane had relegated me to a medical droid's care for the night. Thus, I was in a small med bay. It had only 2 beds and a small Kolto tank in the corner. The moment Shiku left, though, the lights were off. Right. Bed rest. Honestly, it was a sprained ankle. Sure, it was cold, but I had been cleared for hypothermia as well. It felt unnecessary. Master Kane was clear, though. I had the impression that, while incredibly kind and caring for any charge under his care, Master Kane didn't lose very many debates. His no-nonsense tone made it impossible to argue with him. It wasn't like his tone ever changed, but I didn't think he needed it to. Well, nothing for it but to get some rest. Sleep came easier than would have been expected. The next morning I was feeling a little groggy. I just wanted to get up and have a calm morning. We were leaving today for our next destination, wherever that was. We hadn't gone over anything yet about the next steps. I sat up slowly, looking about and slowly remembering where I was on the ship. Surely I could get up and leave the medical room by now. I was starving and my limbs felt stiff after sleeping so deeply. I moved my legs over the side and stretched my arms above my head before attempting to stand. You were planning to get cleared before leaving, yes? Master Kane's voice startled me out of any lingering grogginess. Yes? I said, uncertainty dripping in my voice. It was too early for near heart attacks. Master Kane didn't bother pointing out that this was clearly untrue. To be honest, it hadn't even crossed my mind to get checked again. I felt perfectly fine. I see. I sensed you waking and came to check on you. We entered the Ilum's atmosphere not long ago. We were discussing our next plans and should be leaving soon. You should join us. We were off planet already? How did that not wake me up? How tired was I? Yes, coming, Master, I said, rising to my feet to follow. My stiff legs protested as I stood. Go freshen up and meet us in the canteen. We can discuss our travel plans there. I nodded as he turned to leave. I was still in sleep clothes, so that would be far less embarrassing. My ankle still felt slightly numb, though it was already completely healed. Most likely feeling would come back on its own once I started moving about. I changed in my room, choosing the lighter set of robes. I had a feeling I wasn't going to be sparring today, so I wouldn't need a sturdier robe anyway. It was my stomach more than anything that pulled me from my room. I'd pulled my hair into a loose ponytail, not really wanting to spend any real time on my hair. I made my way to the small dining room quickly, was famished, and just wanted to eat something before we got into any deep conversations about where we were going from here. The next destination and the next test were not really a priority right this second. I stepped into the room to find everyone gathered already, though I had expected that. It looked like lunch was being served. I didn't mind one bit, taking my seat as the serving droid placed a tray in front of me. I couldn't care less what was on the plate. No one spoke as we all ate. It wasn't awkward, just quiet. I wasn't particularly worried. A quiet morning, or, well, afternoon, suited me fine. It wasn't until we had all eaten that any real conversation began. I've gone over the necessary plans for the next steps for you both with Master Kane. We'll be parting ways soon. You are both individuals and will need separate parts for the lightsabers you are both building. Not to mention that your training will be highly individualized. The parts you need are on different planets anyway. That said, we will need to head back to the Republic space station where my own ship is docked. Shiku and I will part ways there. Shiku, you and I will be headed for Corellia. Knight Sokoto began the conversation. Okay, sounds good. Shiku sounded somewhat overwhelmed by the idea of splitting up. She wasn't worried about it necessarily, but she and I had been roommates since I joined the Jedi Academy. We've basically been together since then. It wasn't surprising that she'd be a little put out. Indeed, while you must travel to Corellia, Zix and I have a different destination. It is more efficient to separate now. Zix, we shall be headed for Naboo. Master Kane couldn't be serious. I was frozen. Naboo, my homeworld, the place my father and brothers still resided. Why would we be going there? Surely not. I could feel Shiku look at me with concern. It was a few moments before I could speak. I see. I really didn't have a whole lot to say to that. There were some repressed feelings about how I ended up with the Jedi. I may have moved on for the most part, but confronting that directly was a different issue altogether. Moving forward didn't remove the problem so much as it buried it over time. I had no desire to return anymore. Haven't in years now. Still, my last memory of Naboo wasn't exactly pleasant. The fight between myself and my father, one brother stepping in while the other sided with father. The moment Grandmaster Khan took my hand as we left. I was still crying as we boarded. Not a great memory. Master Kane didn't speak further for the moment. I haven't even realized that Shiku and Sokoto had left the room. At least not until I had a moment to remove myself from my thoughts. I looked up to see only Master Kane in the room still. It was as if he was just waiting for me to ask, or question him, or maybe even fight him over this. I had only known him a week, so I couldn't really read him. Can I handle this? Was all I could honestly ask. I just wanted that reassurance. To know at least one person didn't think I was going to up and run at the first opportunity. You've already decided what you want to do while in that cave. Had you any doubt then, you would have never been able to obtain that Kyber crystal. Will you allow what might happen with your family dissuade you now? Or will you persevere? Only you can answer that. Typical, answering a question with a question. I don't want to go back, but I can't stop now. If my father tries anything now, it won't matter. I'm not changing my mind. I've gained far more than I've lost. I'm staying with you, I answered. I wasn't going to let my politically motivated father convince me to do anything else. Then yes, you can handle this. You must stay strong in your conviction. When you were a child, you weren't given a choice in the matter, but now you are grown. You may not be a legal adult yet, but you know your mind. You have my backing and support. I was honestly touched. This amount of faith felt unearned, yet he would support me in this anyway. What do we even need from there? I asked, wondering if this was even necessary, or if this was another test I was unaware of. You've no doubt heard from the Academy that a Jedi is unusually connected to their weapon. This is partially because, as a Padawan, we gather the materials ourselves as we start our official training. The reason we do this has a deeper meaning. Each test involves us as individuals at different stages. In the cave, you faced possible futures that you had to come to terms with. You had to decide if you had the conviction to stay true to yourself. Now you face the trial of the past. In this, a piece of your past will become the protective casing, the exterior-most part of the lightsaber. He explained. That made sense. The connection with the weapon was important. A Jedi's lightsaber was an extension of them and their connection to the Force. So, while building it, it would need to be built from different pieces that represented you as an individual. So, if the crystal represents the trial of the future, and the casing represents the trial of the past, what about the present? I asked, wondering what could possibly represent the present. That will be when you are ready to build it. The only part of your saber that can be regularly altered or upgraded as you go. The mechanical components themselves. I will provide them myself. As you grow as a student and later a Jedi, these mechanical parts can be changed, thus always representing your current self. Okay, that was intriguing. I could work with the mechanical parts over time? I hadn't even thought about it. Makes sense, and explains the connection between a Jedi and their lightsaber. Still, it's hard. The last time I was on Naboo wasn't a great experience. My family was torn on me leaving. I didn't want to leave. One brother sided with me, the other sided with my father. I doubt those rifts ever mended. After all this time, I can't even imagine what we will be walking into. I shared my concerns honestly. This was not going to be a great homecoming. It is understandable to be concerned. However, you are focused only on the worst-case scenario. You should always prepare for the worst possible case, but do not close your mind to other possibilities. That is the true power of hope. Hope is what keeps the people of the Republic going in these times of war. Master Kane wasn't wrong, but in this one case, it was hard to picture anything other than what could possibly go wrong. Come, we should set the course for the Republic space station. It will not take long to get there. I think it might be good to get you robes that are more comfortable to you before we leave for Naboo. The regular robes are fine for the Academy, but you will be going through more extensive combat training once your lightsaber is built, and you will need more freedom of movement. Master Kane mentioned the idea of new robes seemingly at random. I can only assume that he had noticed that I never really wore the outer robes if I didn't absolutely have to, but he might also be trying to take my mind off the matter of Naboo. Probably a bit of both. I gave him a look that said I knew what he was doing before deciding to drop it and go along with the change in topic. Sounds fine. I do hate the sleeves being so loose. They just get in the way, I said, chuckling a bit before getting up to follow him as we went to set a course in the nav computer. The loose sleeves are for hiding your hands when you need to, though that is really only necessary for formal settings. With combat or day-to-day tasks, they do get cumbersome. You won't need many outer robes in general for now. I mostly work alongside military operations, and since you'll be going with me, you won't be in many formal settings for now, he continued as he input the new coordinates. I'm glad for that. I can't stand politics, even if I understand the need for it, I said, bracing my legs as we entered lightspeed again. Political leanings are often unsavory, but the collaboration between the numerous planets that make up the Republic is often difficult. It takes time to reach a majority when so many planets and people are affected. We may not always agree with the decisions of the Galactic Senate, but we uphold the law of the Republic, so the innocent do not suffer unduly. This is the burden we bear for serving an ideal that is sometimes impossible to meet. Master Kane explained as he and I left the command room. He turned to the meditation room, and I followed. Still, it's better to allow people to be individuals. Different perspectives allow us to see the truth through many lenses. They said this a lot at the academy, I commented as we sat in the same spots we always did for meditation. A vague overview, but not untrue. The cost of freedom is that decisions often take longer to come to, he explained. We had sat down by now, though the conversation seemed calm. Over the course of the conversation, any tension I had had vanished. So how long before we reach the Republic space station? I asked, not sure what else to ask, but enjoying the conversation so far. We should reach the station by tomorrow morning. The station is often moved going across Republic space. It moves slowly as the station is massive. It is a way stop for anyone in the Republic. Many denizens open shops within for those that are in between travel points. Ships often dock there for refueling and maintenance as well. One young woman, who you'll meet while we are there, makes and designs robes. Many other Jedi also go to her for her work. I think you'll enjoy her work far more than the standard student robes, he stated. I look forward to it. There's a lot more to the Republic that I've never seen before. I want to see all of it, I answered honestly. I wanted to see what I was fighting for, what I would be protecting. You will, when you become a knight. I sense you will see more of the galaxy than you can imagine. Your journey has only begun. There will be both good and bad times, but you have it within you to do great things. My job is to show you the way. Master Kane was a good teacher. I liked the way he explained things to me, how he could calm my nerves in new situations with almost no effort. Like it was just a natural progression of conversation, but at each point you could feel yourself ease as he spoke. I couldn't help but smile at him. He was subtle and calming. I could learn a lot from this man. I looked forward to it. No matter what bad thing might happen with my return to Naboo, I was perfectly happy right where I was. Thank you, was all I could say. I think he knew what I meant as he just nodded at me. I looked forward to everything he would teach me in the next 5 years. We proceeded with our meditation practice, and it felt nice to just enjoy the calm. I was slowly beginning to progress with what he was showing me. I could feel how it seemed that the Force itself was trying to connect at a deeper level than I had managed before. It didn't seem to scare me near as much as before. I still couldn't quite reach out, but it was still a calming time that I was beginning to really enjoy. As predicted, we arrived at the Republic space station the next morning. We were just finishing breakfast when I felt the ship come out of hyperspeed. Shiku and I just looked at each other as Master Kane and Knight Sokoto both moved to the command room. Guess we're here. How are you feeling? Like, really feeling? Shiku asked as she finished the last couple bites of her breakfast. Honestly, I'm fine. I'm not looking forward to going back, but after Master Kane spoke with me last night, I'm not worried either. If you must know, it doesn't really matter. No matter what, I'm not going anywhere, I told her honestly. I knew what she really wanted to know. I'm glad. I'll miss sparring with you, though. You'll still message me, though, right? Like, I want an update on how this whole visit goes. She looked at me with that face that promised minor vengeance if I didn't keep her updated. Don't worry, I'll keep in touch. I wouldn't want your holy wrath should I forget to keep your nosiness informed, I teased as we left the mess room. Hey, I'm not that bad, she exclaimed. Of course not, I smirked at her as she mumbled in annoyance. She humped at me as the ship was pulled in by tractor beam to land within the station. I giggled a bit at her pout as we prepared to leave the ship. The station was massive, an entire floating city pretty much. I didn't even need to leave the ship parking to see that either. Several ships per hangar, plus the docking rings as well. Many of the ships were military class, though there were private ships as well. The tech alone in this place was top-notch. I could almost feel the electric hum surrounding me. It was almost overwhelming. Do not take anything apart, Shiku teased at me. It would take me years, and I don't have nearly that much free time, I responded, smirking. You didn't say anything about not wanting to, and it's not comforting, she mumbled to herself. I left the conversation at that as we made our way to the lifts that would take us to the station proper. This was a massive, several-story tall, circular hub of activity. Shops, food stalls, weapon stalls. If it was legally sold in the Republic, it was here. There were also so many people: soldiers, officers, refugees, shop owners, mechanics, engineers, even people I could only assume were smugglers. The sound was a humming, buzzing cacophony of electric currents and voices. It was a bit overwhelming to my senses after being in the quiet for the last week. I decided I would stick with Master Kane rather closely. Having never been here, I could absolutely see myself getting lost in the masses. Directions were never my strong suit. Shiku, however, looked ecstatic. This was more her thing. The people, the lights, this was where she thrived. It was kind of adorable as she bounced around trying to see everything at once. Let's head over to see Madame Kyra first. These two need better, sturdier robes before anything, Knight Sokoto exclaimed as we headed in and slightly to the right. We just sort of followed behind him. We were walking for about 10 minutes before stopping in front of a small shop covered in fabrics of all different shades, types, and textures. It looked like a random assortment of fabrics sort of exploded everywhere. The lack of organization would have had me stressed if it wasn't for the fact that it looked intentional. In the back of the shop was a tiny Rhodian woman bustling about with the different fabrics. She was dressed in a nice set of robes, purple and vibrant, but no crazy pattern, with short sleeves and a skirt that went just past her knees. The color complemented her white and orange scale pattern as well, and she seemed calm but flighty at the same time.
Oh, hello, masters. I was hoping I would see you soon. Madame Kyra spoke in a soft voice. She was speaking in her native language, which had a high pitch to it, but wasn't hard to understand.
Of course. We wouldn't want to go to anyone else. Your work is always perfect, Knight Sokoto spoke. Not for ourselves this time. The two young ones are just about to begin their formal training. They'll need robes that can handle it, Master Kane added a little more formally.
Of course. Those academy robes are so boring. A full starter pack for both. I just finished up a few sets. They can pick what they like. First set is on the house, as always, she added. I wasn't sure what I would be looking for, so this would be fun. Turned out I didn't need to. Several hover carts moved out from a back room I hadn't seen before. I looked in a few. Standard robes, but made with durable material for the most part. There were a few that had different colors other than brown, which I found a little hilarious. It was clear where Master Kane only got robes from here. He had a thing for the pastel blue robes that I had seen, and Madame Kyra didn't seem to appreciate the lack of personality that standard Jedi robes tended to have. Even the brown robes most Jedi wore that she had made seemed to have interesting patterns or cloth. Still, you would never see me in the bright pink set I saw in there. Not happening. Hey, this would actually look really good on you, I heard Shiku pipe up from further down the line of crates. I looked up curiously as she picked up a plain set of white robes. The trim was a bright, silky red that almost perfectly matched my hair. The white fabric looked soft and comfortable. The set was sleeveless, with detachable bell sleeves. I could take them off as they connected to arm cuffs to hold them in place on my upper bicep if I needed them. The set came with multiple styles of tops and pants. Not a skirt in sight. Perfect. Skirts made about as much sense to me as bell sleeves. In short, just why? I really like these, I said as Shiku handed the set to me to see more closely. That would be lovely on you. If you would like to try it on, I have a changing room in the back, Madame Kyra spoke calmly. I nodded, following her to the back while Shiku kept perusing, now determined to find something for herself. The changing room was small, but still plenty of space to change comfortably. The first set on top was all I really needed for now. I just need to see how it would look and if it would fit properly. The fabric was a bit stiff since it had never been worn before, but everything seemed to fit all right. Even the cuffed bell sleeves, the exposed shoulder concept seemed very elegant while being incredibly simple in design. The pants and belt fit perfect, snug but comfortable. The wall mirror showed the full effect, the red silky lining around a more comfortable soft white fabric. After years in standard, somewhat itchy and slightly ill-fitting academy robes, It was nice to be in something that fit properly and looked nice. I understand the academy had to go with more standard sizing. There were too many students between the medical students and young potentials to customize uniforms for everyone. That wasn't very practical. But this was nice. I stepped out, perfectly happy with the fit. Madame Kyra stood just outside with a pair of black boots and black fingerless gloves and handed them to me. "That fits you perfectly. How do they feel?" she asked as I slipped the gloves on my hands. "It's like you knew I was coming. They are perfect." I was happy with the overall look. I sat and started lacing the boots. They came just up to my mid-calf with red laces. These also seemed to be a perfect fit, slightly tight like new boots were meant to be. They wouldn't take long to break in either. I stood again, moving about and seeing how everything moved and fit as I shifted. I even added the arm cuffs with the attached sleeves just to see the full look. The cuffs are tight enough to keep the sleeves in place without being uncomfortable. "Scuttle Talk tells you a lot. Master Kane is well known for his work with the military. A lot of captains and generals have worked with him, so when he was called into Coruscant to take a new student, word got out a bit. So, in a way, I did know you were coming. It seems that most of the time, when new students come in, the right look just sort of happens for everyone. I rarely need to make alterations for the Jedi that come in," she admitted as I followed her back to the front of the shop. "Well, I'm glad for it. I can see why they come to you. Your work is impeccable," I said honestly. "I knew that would look good on you. That's perfect," Shiku exclaimed, a different set in her own hands in brown and with a deep blue trim. "Guess it's your turn then. Come on, let's see." Shiku practically bounced into the back room to change herself. I moved to stand by Master Kane while holding the other pieces from the set. There were several copies of the robe I was wearing, all slightly different, but in line with the theme, white with silky red lining. I was also given 2 more pairs of boots and a pair of flat shoes that seemed more casual. I was going to need a bag or something if Madame Kyra gave me anything else. As if she had read my mind, she placed everything into a duffel bag, carefully layering everything as I handed them back to her one item at a time. The whole thing maybe took a few minutes while Shiku was changing. Shiku came out just as Madame Kyra finished. Shiku had chosen a longer robe, though it stayed behind her like a cape, held in place with a belt at her waist. The deep brown was accented by the deep blue details and trim. She had pants and brown knee-high boots. The look suited her, as the blue trim matched her skin tone almost perfectly. Madame Kyra almost immediately packed everything in a separate duffel bag for Shiku as well. "It suits you," I said as her things were being packed up for her. "Thanks. What do you think is next? I can't imagine we'll be here for too long." Shiku wasn't wrong. The attendants in the ship dock started working immediately to refuel and to attend to any maintenance the ship might need. "Couldn't tell you. Master Kane and Knight Sokoto have been talking together the whole time we've been here. I can only assume they're discussing our next plans. Either that or they aren't interested in shopping. I've never met a man of any races that could focus when shopping is involved," I responded with a small chuckle. "True enough," she laughed a bit as well. "You two are all set. I hope to see you both again. Just pop by any time you need new robes or any patchwork," Madame Kyra said, handing Shiku the duffel bag with her new things. "Thank you for all your help. I'll only see you for robes, promise," I said, my own duffel bag slung over my shoulder. "Yes, thank you so much." Shiku was incredibly excited. "You both look more comfortable." Knight Sokoto turned to us as Madame Kyra disappeared without another word into the back of the shop. "Yes, Master, these are great," Shiku answered happily. "We should move on. We have only one other stop while we are here. You should enjoy this, Zix," Master Kane stated, sounding amused. I perked a bit, wondering where we were going. "Where are we going, Master?" I asked, curiosity clear in my own ears. "You shall see." Yes, he definitely sounded amused. Still, we followed him back into the throng of people. They walked calmly, though it was clear we weren't going far. It was only about 5 minutes later that we arrived. We were at a tech shop. Little bits and bobs of mechanical pieces for different things. There were stray wires and droid parts lining the walls. I immediately had a feeling I knew why we were here, but I couldn't stop myself from looking around. There were too many things to look at. From the parts alone, I could build several droids, shielding units, miniature map displays, or my own comm unit, or any number of mechanical items. I couldn't have told you a single thing about the shop owner or how long we were in there. I had about 3 different blueprints writing themselves in my head as I categorically looked at anything and everything in there. It was like trying to complete 5 different puzzles with all the pieces mixed and no idea what the final image would be. I was in the middle of figuring out if connecting a thermal scanner to a planet map would allow you to find nearby minerals or tunnels. Nothing that would help me at all. I just wanted to know if it would work better than the underground radars we already had. However, my thoughts on the scanner idea were interrupted as a hand landed on my shoulder. I managed not to jump. I still wasn't really used to physical touch, even if I didn't feel pain from it. "It is time to go. We can always return another time." Master Kane spoke calmly. Shiku was snickering by the exit. Feeling chastised despite no one saying a word, I followed Master Kane out of the mechanic shop, only just now seeing an incredibly entertained male human shopkeeper with an amused smirk on his lean face behind the counter. My face heated in embarrassment as we left. It didn't seem like Master Kane was upset with me or anything, but to get lost in thought like that over a hobby was just humiliating. "And here I thought building a lightsaber would be the most interesting project on your mind," Shiku teased as we continued walking around. I had no idea where we were headed. I figured they had discussed it while I was distracted. "Oh, hush. Where are we going, anyway?" I asked as we seemed to be headed to the center of the station. "There are a few restaurants 1 floor up. Master Sokoto figured we should eat something that wasn't made in a synthesizer before we split up," Sheikah responded as we walked into the nearest lift to go up a floor. "As long as it has more flavor than a field ration, I won't complain," I added as the lift rose. "No worries there. The chefs are all great. Nothing fancy today, though. There's a little stall that makes a stew called tingular. It's a mando dish. The man who makes it used to run with them for a while before he lost a leg. He doesn't add nearly as much spice to it, but it's pretty good. He said the traditional recipe would have you sweating buckets, it's so hot," Sokoto answered. "Sounds fine to me. I like spicy food anyway," I responded casually. Honestly, more places in the Republic should have well-flavored food. There were dozens of different cultures. Surely not all of them preferred mild, unflavored foods. "You are insane. How can you enjoy food that brings pain?" I giggled a bit at Shiku's statement. It reminded me of the only time she tried anything I made myself. The hot sauce was something that I couldn't make often, but the only time Shiku was brave enough to try it, despite my warnings, she was almost crying. "Hot sauce," I said through giggles as we exited the lift. The smell of food hit us immediately. It smelled amazing. I didn't even realize I was hungry. We walked around close to the outer wall. There were windows all along this level, affording a nice view to the stars and vast space around the station as it slowly turned. In a little spot towards the wall was what could only be described as a street vendor, was a little food stall with a few tables around it. Only 1 table was occupied when we arrived. The cook was limping back to the stall from their table. His leg was a poorly patched together technical limb. They were the most basic forms of prosthetics and had a bad habit of locking up, and that was if they were brand new and properly fitted. He had longer brown hair that he tied up, and a beard. He looked ragged and was covered in scars. "Eric!" Sokoto greeted the man loudly as the rest of us took a seat. These 2 were clearly friends. Another woman who worked with him came over to take orders. She seemed sweet, most likely his daughter or something. I did, in fact, order the tingular. Knight Sokoto had me curious. I did prefer spicy foods when they were available, and not much about Mandalorian culture was taught at the academy, so if nothing else it would be interesting. All I knew about Mandalorian was that they saw everything as a test of strength, and they held their version of honor as sacred. Most in the Republic were wary of them, as they were notoriously neutral,
taking jobs from either side of the war based both on their compensation and sense of honor. The specifics of their culture weren't taught, though. Still, if their food was as well seasoned as promised, they couldn't be all that bad. Knight Sokoto returned to the table without Eric, who I could only assume was going to fix the plates. It didn't take long. Most stews were pre-made, so at least one order wouldn't take long. Shiku had gotten Gorek skewers, with the sauce on the side. She couldn't handle foods that were all that spicy. Master Kane hadn't ordered anything. The mask he had to wear to breathe meant that any sustenance he needed was calculated for the sake of his species. When Eric returned, he looked slightly amused. I had seen that look too many times in one day for my liking. "You sure about this? Even the mild version is quite hot," he said, placing the stew on the table for me. "I like spicy," I answered bluntly, eyeing him. He seemed to be waiting for a reaction. I could only guess that many a person had said the same, but couldn't handle it. If that was the reaction to the milder version, I could only imagine what the original version did to most people. The reactions were probably the only entertainment this man got most days. I could picture soldiers psyching each other up to try it, only to be unable to handle the heat. I took the spoon and took a bite. It was amazing. The heat wasn't as overwhelming as they were trying to say it was. The best combination of exotic spices hitting the tongue. I was in bliss. It was so simple, just a mixture of meats, vegetables, and a pasta swimming in a spicy broth. But the explosion of complicated flavors was outstanding. I looked up at the surprised faces around me. "What? It's good," I said before taking another bite. "Huh. Well, I'm glad. I'll have to make the real thing next time you guys are here. I gotta see that." Eric looked genuinely impressed. I never did understand why spice seemed so interesting, even if it was hilarious to see the reactions from people who couldn't take it. I just nodded as I continued eating. "I'm sure you'll have other opportunities." Knight Sokoto had apparently not thought I could handle it. Either he thought I was bragging unnecessarily, which is insulting, or that it was some inside joke between myself and Shiku. Once we finished eating, I had an idea for my next personal project. Watching Eric move around with that subpar leg was becoming painful. It would take me a while to build a prosthetic, but the process was fairly simple. I would have to ask Master Kane about it before we left. Not long after we finished up, it was with a heavy heart that Shiku and I separated for the first time since we had met at the academy. She followed Knight Sokoto as they headed to a different part of the station than we had initially come from. His smaller ship most likely parked in a different hangar than ours. "How are you feeling?" Master Kane asked, seeming to sense my mood drop. "I'm all right. It'll be quiet without her, but I'll always have a friend in her. Besides, it's not like we can't speak to one another," I said, a little sad. Indeed. You two have a good bond. It will be good to know you have at least one person always in your corner. There is something else he wanted to ask, though." "Well, yes, but he could have just let me ask." "Yes, there is something bothering me. Is there a reason Eric is on that particular prosthetic? It doesn't seem to fit well, and I know that series is meant to be temporary," I asked, not bothering to mention that they had problems locking up. "He only runs a small food stall. I don't believe he has the funds to properly replace it." "Why do you ask?" Master Kane asked, even though I had a feeling he already knew why I mentioned it. "Well, that line is not meant for long-term use. He would be better off with something sturdier. I was wondering if we could get the parts for me to make him one," I answered. I could just imagine that he was in pain walking around on something that didn't work properly. "Any particular reason his plight stood out to you?" That was a good question. I wasn't really sure what drew me to help here. I just knew I wanted to. "I don't really know. Just a feeling I had. Besides, he must be in pain walking as he is with how badly he was limping. And this is something I know how to do, and can do," I said, following Master Kane as he walked forward. "I'm glad you are following your instincts here. As it happens, I also felt the need to step in a while ago, though he wouldn't take the credits for nothing." He's an honorable man and isn't likely to take something for charity, so we help where we can. This time, however, I believe we can help him. We will go to Naboo, as planned, but if you wish to take on this endeavor, then I won't stop you. I ordered the parts already. They should be waiting for us at the ship. The sneaky... He must have ordered them at the tech shop while I was looking around. I huffed as I followed him. Before long, we were back on the ship, headed for Naboo, and I had several mechanical parts waiting for me in my room. I giggled a little as I separated everything into neat boxes before getting started on blueprints and a little research into the best option for connecting a permanent prosthetic to older injuries.